The royal trap asterisk, the grand halls of Valtherion shimmered under the twin moons. Crystals floated above the banquet tables, glowing gently. The Galactic King, Zarkan VI, sat on his throne, cold eyes watching every move. His empire stretched across 13 star systems. His word was law. And tonight he had a special guest, a human. Her name was Yelena, a quiet woman. Tall, elegant, dressed in a dark silver robe. She walked with slow grace, her hands always folded neatly in front. Most called her Earth's diplomat. Zarkan called her weak. To him, humans were nothing more than soft creatures, full of emotions, full of mercy, full of fear. Zarkon didn't like mercy. He had already made a decision. This Earth woman, this diplomat, would not leave his planet. Alive. As Yelena entered the banquet hall, all eyes turned. She didn't smile, she didn't bow. She just stared at Zarkan with calm, unreadable eyes. The same kind of eyes soldiers feared before battle, cold, still, and old. Too old. The king raised a glass. To peace, he said with a smirk. Yelena didn't lift hers. Peace only comes, she said softly, when both sides understand pain. That made several nobles shift in their seats. Zarkan's smile faded just a little, but the plan was already in motion. In the kitchen, a special dish was prepared for the Earth guest, spiced ithran fruit soaked in honey wine. A favorite among humans, and also very easy to poison. The chef was paid well, his family already flown to a safe planet. One of the king's guards, a thick-scaled being named Vor, placed the dish in front of Yelena with a fake smile. But Yelena didn't move. She stared at the fruit for a long second, then looked up at Vor. The guard felt a chill. Tell me, she asked calmly, how long has your right hand been shaking? Vor's smile broke. His hand trembled slightly, a detail no one had noticed. But Yelena had. She pushed the plate aside. You should get that checked, she whispered. Then she stood and walked to the center of the hall. Every royal guest stopped talking. Silence swept across the room like a wave. Zarkan narrowed his eyes. Is something wrong, Earthwoman? Yelena raised one finger. You invited me to this palace. You promised peace. You promised truth. Zarkan shrugged. And? She turned slowly, facing everyone. But what you served me tonight was death. Gasps echoed. The king stood. You insult the honor of this hall. Yelena smiled for the first time, a strange, sharp smile. It didn't reach her eyes. Honor? She said, you don't even understand the word. She walked back to her seat, pulled something from her robe, a small silver coin. She dropped it into her untouched fruit bowl. The fruit began to smoke. Poison confirmed. Chaos followed. Guards drew weapons. Nobles stood and panicked. Vor fell to his knees, begging forgiveness. Zarkan shouted for everyone to stay calm. But Yelena was already gone. Gone, even though no one saw her move. Outside the palace, the night air was cold. Yelena stood on the wene roof of a floating tower, her dark cloak flapping in the wind. Her eyes stared toward the royal spire. She whispered something in an old Earth language, forgotten by most, feared by few. A small mechanical drone hovered beside her. Mission failed? It asked in a gentle tone. No, she said. Mission just started. She looked into the stars, where Earth was a distant dot. Zarkan tried to poison peace, she said. Now I'll poison his lies. The drone beeped. Nervously, if they find out who you are. Yelena smiled again, that same sharp, dangerous smile. Let them find out, she whispered. Let them remember what Baba Yaga means. She vanished into the shadows, silent, ghost-like, leaving behind only fear. And inside the palace, King Zarkan ordered a lockdown, unaware. He hadn't just tried to kill a diplomat. He had invited death into his home. The royal guards searched every hallway, every stairwell, every shadow. But Yelena was gone. No footsteps, no heat trace, no signal, nothing. The cameras showed her leaving the banquet hall, and then vanishing. 1 second she was walking across the corridor. The next, the feed turned to static. When it returned, the hall was empty. The head of security, General Kaur, was furious. "People don't just disappear," he shouted, slamming his clawed fist into the wall. "She's a human, not a magician." But deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. The way she had looked at the poison, the way she had moved. The strange symbol she left behind on the fruit bowl, now burned into the silver. This wasn't normal. This wasn't diplomacy. This was something else. Back on Earth, her file was locked. Even the interplanetary records didn't know who she really was. The name Yelena showed no family, no home, no history. Only one thing was written under origin, classified by Earth Shadow COU and Sayal. But there were rumors. Old soldiers from wars, long forgotten, whispered her name like a ghost story. Baba Yaga, the name of a mythical killer. A woman without a soul. One who walked into war zones alone and left as the only living thing. Some said she couldn't die. Others said she had already died long ago, and what walked now was her shadow. And now, she had come to Valtherion. Wearing a diplomat's smile, inside the palace, King Zarkin paced in his private chamber. He was angry, yes, but also something more. Afraid. His planet had the strongest defenses in the galaxy. Yet a single human woman had humiliated him in front of every noble. She had survived poison. She had disappeared without a trace. And worst of all, she had said nothing. No threat, no demand. Just a smile, and then silence. "Find her," he barked into the cum. "I want her found. Dead or alive, it makes no difference." But finding her wasn't easy. That night, 2 guards went missing from the eastern tower. Their armor was found on the floor, empty. No bodies, no blood. Just their helmets, placed neatly on a bench. And a small piece of paper between them. "Don't follow me." Zarkin tightened his grip on the balcony rail. His planet was his pride, his power, but now it felt like a cage. Every dark corner seemed to breathe. Every shadow seemed to watch. He had made a mistake. He thought he had invited a soft human woman. Instead, he had invited something else. In the slums beneath the palace, in the underground districts where even soldiers didn't go, a group of rebels gathered around a flickering screen. One of them, a one-eyed alien named Cern, watched the footage of the banquet again. "She didn't eat the fruit," he muttered. "She knew it was poisoned before anyone else did." Another rebel, a short creature with metal limbs, shook his head. "No one could have known that fast. Unless she was trained," Cern finished. "Not just any training, Earth's Black Ops level, silent wars. Assassins, do you think?" Someone whispered, "Do you think she's the Baba Yaga?" Everyone froze. Even in the deepest parts of the galaxy, that name was still spoken. With fear, Cern smiled slowly. "If she is, then maybe the galaxy still has hope." Later that night, in the darkest part of the palace, the royal library, an old historian sorted through Forbidden's archives. He had heard the rumors. He had seen the symbol burned into the fruit bowl, 3 sharp lines crossing in a circle. He gasped. He rushed to an ancient book, pulled it out with trembling fingers, and flipped the pages. There it was, the same symbol. It was written in the forgotten war logs from Earth's oldest conflicts, long before the Galactic Empire was born. Baba Yaga, the ghost of peaceful Salaji, didn't kill out of rage. She didn't kill for blood. She killed to protect something deeper: silence, balance, peace. And when those were threatened, she became death itself. And now, she was here. The historian backed away from the book, heart pounding. If King Zarkin really tried to kill her, then Valtherion wasn't just in danger, it was already under judgment, far above the city. Inside an abandoned watchtower, Yelena stood in front of a mirror. She peeled off her diplomatic robe, revealing tight black armor underneath, almost like skin. Silent, smooth, deadly. She looked into her own reflection. Not angry. Not afraid. Just tired. But determined. This isn't about revenge, she whispered. This is about memory. She pulled a small vial from her belt, a liquid that shimmered like stars. This kingdom forgot what fear feels like, she said. Let's help them remember. She turned, walked into the dark, and vanished. Again, like a whisper in the wind. The night was quiet, too quiet. Even in a palace as large as Zarkan's, silence was never normal. There were always footsteps, servants whispering, guards changing shifts. But now something had changed. It felt like the walls were listening. At sunrise, a royal general was found hanging upside down from the ceiling of his private chamber. His name was General Yoruk, one of the 4 men involved in the plan to poison Yelena. He had no visible wounds, no signs of a fight, but his face was frozen. In terror, mouth wide open, eyes staring into nothing. The only sound in the chamber was the soft dripping of blood from a single word, carved into the wall with a blade. Peace. No one understood what it meant, but it chilled them to the bone. Zarkan arrived with his top guards, eyes blazing with anger. Who did this? He demanded. No one answered. Then a trembling servant stepped forward. I saw something, he whispered. Everyone turned. The servant continued, shaking. I was delivering wine to the floor below, and I saw a shadow, not walking, not running, floating. It passed through the hallway like smoke. Zarkan's face turned pale. Smoke. That was the word many used in the old stories of Baba Yaga. She didn't walk. She moved like fog. She came and went like death. Zarkan clenched his fists. Lock down the palace. No one leaves, no one enters. I want her found. But deep inside, the king already knew. This wasn't a woman anymore. This was a curse. Meanwhile, in the lower districts of Valtherion, people whispered tales in hidden corners. She marked him like a beast, said one market guard. No, she gave a warning, said an alien vendor. She's not killing for fun. She's hunting those who betrayed peace. The message was clear. Yelena wasn't there to destroy the planet. She was there to balance it, and her way of balance was terrifying. In a hidden chamber beneath the palace, the king's spymaster paced nervously. He had erased files, burned records, wiped Yelena's entry logs. But now he feared she knew. Somehow, she always knew. He turned to the mirror to wash his face, trying to steady his breathing. But the mirror wasn't reflecting his full face. Something stood behind him. He turned. Nothing, just shadows. He sighed in relief and turned back. This time, the mirror showed a message smeared across the glass, written in blood-red paint. Your secrets belong to me now. He screamed, but no one came. When the guards finally broke into his chamber, he was lying on the floor, whispering nonsense, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling like he'd seen a ghost. Because maybe he had. Zarkan called an emergency war council. All high officials attended, cloaked in fear. One advisor whispered, "We should offer peace again. She may accept." Another said, "She's just a human. We can kill her with enough firepower." Zarkan slammed his fist on the table. She is not human. She is Earth's weapon. And she has declared war on my throne. Then, from the shadows near the wall, a soft voice spoke. She didn't declare war. Everyone froze. A black feathered object dropped on the table with a soft thud. "You did." Gasps echoed. They turned to the wall, but the shadow was gone. The object on the table was a single earth raven feather, dark, long, and dripping with what looked like ink. But it wasn't ink. It was poison. The same poison Zarkan had ordered, used on her. A perfect message. She had entered the war room without being seen, and left her calling card inches from the king's face. Zarkin roared in rage. Double the guard. Use the sky drones. I want every inch of this city watched. But no drone ever caught her. No soldier ever saw her coming. Only the fear remained. Prince Kale, the king's son, had been watching quietly. He wasn't like his father. He didn't want blood. He believed in diplomacy, real diplomacy, not the kind wrapped in threats. He started digging. He searched the old Earth archives. He found the symbol burned into the fruit bowl. 3 intersecting blades in a circle. He searched deeper. And then he found her. Not her face. Never a face, but stories. Dozens of missions, unsolvable crimes. High-level generals disappearing. In the middle of meetings. Warlords dropping dead after signing false peace treaties. And always the same mark left behind. Kale whispered the name. Baba Yaga. He leaned back, heart pounding. His father had invited a myth to dinner. A myth that hunted liars. A myth that walked the line between justice and death. And now she was free. Inside their palace. That night, Zarkin found another message waiting. In his throne room, carved directly into his stone chair. 3 remain. 3 of the original conspirators who plotted her. Death. She was counting down, and she wasn't stopping. Not until the last one fell. The palace of Valtherion was no longer a symbol of power. It had become a prison of fear. Guards no longer stood tall. They flinched at shadows, spoke in whispers, and kept their backs to walls. The once golden corridors were now dim, cold, and watched. Even the walls seemed to breathe with silent tension. Zarkin sat in his war chamber, surrounded by blinking screens and trembling advisors. 2 generals were dead. His spymaster was broken. And still, the Earthwoman hadn't been caught. Worse, no one even saw her anymore. Yet her presence was everywhere. She's not a soldier, Zarkin growled. She's not a diplomat. She's something else. She's a spirit, muttered. 1 guard. A curse. No, Zarkin replied coldly. She's a message. And that terrified him more than anything. Late that evening, rain pounded the crystal windows of the palace. The storm outside was violent, but nothing compared to the storm building inside. 2 guards were patrolling the east wing when they heard it. Music. A soft, slow melody. A human lullaby. But there were no humans left in the palace. They followed. The sound, weapons drawn, nerves tight. It led them to a door. The old war museum. Sealed for decades. The door creaked open on its own. They stepped inside. And found a table set for 1. A single candle flickering. A plate of untouched food, and a hologram playing the lullaby. In the center of the table was a folded piece of cloth. 1 guard picked it up with shaking hands. It was part of Yelena's robe. On it was a message, handwritten in old Earth ink. The closer you look, the less you'll see. The lights went out. When they came back on, the guards were gone. All that remained were their weapons, and a trail of water leading to the air vents. Meanwhile, Prince Kale moved silently through the palace archives. Had begun to doubt everything. His father, the war, even their pride. He found an old book stolen from Earth's records, hidden behind a locked panel. The Woman Without a Grave, it read. It described a being that appeared only in times of great betrayal, when peace was broken and lies filled the air like poison. This being wore the face of a woman, moved like a shadow, and struck without warning. It had no home, no family, no name. Except 1. Baba Yaga. Kale closed the book slowly. Then he whispered to himself, she's not here for war. She's here for justice. But justice, in her hands, was sharper than any blade. That night, Zarkin entered his throne room. Everything looked normal. But something had changed. The tapestries were still. The guards were in place, but there was a smell, faint, metallic. Blood. He turned slowly, heart racing, and saw it. A body. High above the throne, hanging like a banner. The 3rd conspirator. His eyes were sewn shut, his lips sealed with thread. Scroll was nailed to his chest. Zarkin tore it free with shaking hands. You silence truth. I silence you. Zarkin fell to his knees. He wasn't just losing his kingdom. He was being judged. Somewhere above on a hidden catwalk, Yelena watched. Her eyes were calm, cold. Ancient dot she had spent years in the dark, training beyond pain, beyond emotion. She had seen empires fall, not by armies, but by lies. And Zarkin's empire was built on lies. She whispered into her wrist communicator. 3 are gone. 1 remains. The reply came in a coded tone. Do not show mercy. Yelena answered with a whisper. I don't carry that word. She turned, melting into the shadows once more. In the servant quarters. Rumors spread like fire. She can walk through walls. No, she hides inside mirrors. She was sent by the old earth gods to punish liars. And all across the palace, people began to change. Some locked themselves in their rooms. Some refused food and sleep. Some began writing farewell letters. Even the bravest warriors no longer looked each other in the eyes, because the Baba Yaga wasn't just killing. She was breaking them from the inside, and no one knew who would be next. That midnight, Prince Kale made a decision. He removed his royal badge. He took nothing but a coat and a data drive, and he slipped away from the palace under the storm. His heart heavy. He wasn't running from fear. He was running toward the truth. He had to find Yelena. He had to speak to the woman his father tried to kill, because maybe, just maybe, she was the only one left who could stop what was coming. Not war, but judgment. The name Baba Yaga was no longer a whisper. It was a storm. Across spaceports and satellite stations, across mining colonies and luxury planets, people were speaking about the Earth woman who disappeared into the Galactic King's palace and turned it into a haunted tomb. Tales grew fast. Some said she used black magic. Others claimed she was a machine. A few believed she was a ghost from Earth's forgotten wars. But they all agreed on one thing. Wherever she walked, silence followed. And when she left, someone always died. On the edge of the Empire, a traitor. Ship passed by Valtherian and refused to land. We don't step where shadows walk, the captain told the station master. Not where she is. That same day, 3 noble families requested emergency departure from the capital. They claimed health reasons, but everyone knew. They were afraid. Zarkin's empire was beginning to rot from the inside, not from invasion, but from fear. In the palace, King Zarkin sat alone. No advisors, no guards. He had stopped trusting everyone. His food was prepared only by robots. His halls were scanned 20 times a day. His doors were locked with triple codes. Yet, still, she got in. Another message appeared on his private monitor. No network. No hack, just there. I know your thoughts before you speak them. Zarkin destroyed the screen with his fist. But it didn't help. The ghost was still watching. Far away, in the ruins of an abandoned observatory, Yelena stood before a table full of weapons, but she touched none of them. She didn't need weapons anymore. Her mind was sharper than blades. Her silence louder than bombs. Her real weapon was truth and fear, and she was about to strike with both. Behind her, Prince Kale stood, rain dripping from his coat. She had allowed him to find her, only him. She didn't turn to face him. You've left the palace, she said. I left my father, he replied. There's a difference. Yelena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, 3 are gone, only 1 remains. But he's the hardest to reach. Kale already knew. His father didn't come to stop you, Kale said. I came to understand you. Understand me? Yelena turned slowly. Her eyes glowed faintly in the rainlight. Not from tech, but something deeper. You can't understand me unless you've lost what I have. Kale didn't flinch. Then tell me. Yelena walked to the broken window. Years ago, Earth offered peace, true peace. Not from power, from unity. Your father smiled, signed the treaty, and then launched a silent strike against our leaders. She paused. My sister was one of them. A long silence. I thought your name was Yelena. Kale said softly. She shook her head. That name was given to me. The galaxy gave me another one. Kale whispered. Baba Yaga. Yes. In the highest tower of Valtherion, King Zarkin stared at the stars. He remembered when his empire felt endless, when people bowed before his words, when he believed peace could be bought or broken like any contract. But now, even the stars looked like eyes. He activated the emergency command, Operation Void Hammer. A planetary lockdown. No one in, no one out. Military control over the entire city. If she's here, he said, she'd be crushed. But deep down he knew she was already gone. Or worse, she was already inside. News spread like fire. A royal general found frozen in his chamber. Heart stopped. No wounds. A fleet commander disappeared mid-flight, his ship returning empty. A transmission caught a figure moving through walls, too fast for sensors. People started calling her something new. The Galactic Ghost. Even Zarkin's enemies and other systems began to fear her. She doesn't fight wars, one pirate lord said. She ends them, quietly. In secret meetings across the stars, leaders whispered the same question. What did Zarkin do to bring her wrath? Inside the observatory, Kale sat across from Yelena. You've made your point, he said. She looked at him sharply. This isn't about making a point. Then what is it? She stood. It's about reminding the galaxy that peace isn't a weakness. It's a promise. And if you break it, I break you. Kale looked at the old Earth symbol glowing softly. On the wall behind her, a circle crossed by 3 blades. He swallowed. Will you stop after him? Yelena stared at him for a long time. Finally she said, that depends on whether the galaxy starts listening. Then she vanished into the shadows again, not running, not hiding, just becoming part of the fear that now ruled the stars. At the palace, Zarkin received one final message. It was written on real paper, Earth paper, impossible to trace. Tomorrow, at dawn. Throne room, no guards. His hands shook, but he knew there was no running from a ghost, and dawn was coming. Asterisk. The first light of dawn crept over Valtherion's towers. The royal palace stood still, locked in silence. No soldiers patrolled the throne room. No servants dared enter. Even the air felt heavy, like the galaxy was holding its breath. King Zarkin stood alone before his throne. No crown. No armor. Only fear. He had received her message, and he had followed her rules. No guards. No lies. Just truth. And now, the truth was coming for him. The heavy doors creaked open. She stepped in like a shadow. Calm. Slow. Wearing black from head to toe. Not armor, not silk. Just shadow-wrapped cloth. Soaked in centuries of quiet rage, her eyes met his, still, cold, measuring. Your Highness, she said softly. Zarkin swallowed. His voice cracked. You came. She tilted her head. You invited me, remember? He tried to stand tall. You think you're fear itself. But you're just a woman. No, she replied. I was a woman. Then you made me something else. She walked forward, no sound in her steps. Zarkin didn't move. If you're here to kill me, he said, get it over with. But she stopped 2 steps away. No, she said, not yet. He blinked. I'm here to see if there's anything left worth saving. Zarkin frowned. Saving? You've murdered 3 of my top men. They weren't men, she snapped. They were cowards, liars, peacebreakers. I gave them silence. He looked away. Do you know what betrayal tastes like? She asked. He didn't answer. She leaned closer. It tastes like honeyed fruit, laced with poison. Zarkin flinched, and then The side door opened. Prince Kale entered. Not in royal robes. Not with guards. Just a data drive in one hand. And determination in his eyes. "Father," he said, his voice steady. "It's time we stop pretending." Zarkin's face hardened. "You shouldn't be here." Yelena stepped back slightly, watching both. Kale turned to her. "I have something for you." He placed the drive on a nearby pedestal. "It holds copies of every secret order, every fake treaty, every time our empire pretended to offer peace while preparing war." Yelena stared at the drive without moving. Then slowly, she looked at Kale. "Why give this to me?" "Because Earth wasn't wrong," he said. "We were, my father, his council. Our entire history." Zarkin shouted, "You would betray your own blood?" Kale turned to him. "No, I'm saving it." Yelena stepped forward, silent again. She pressed one finger to the drive. It unlocked. Instantly. She had seen enough. She knew he wasn't lying. She looked at Kale. And for the first time her voice softened. "You could have run," she said. "I did," he replied. "But not away. I ran toward truth." There was a silence. And then she turned to Zarkin. "I've walked through worlds," she said. "Seen children starve while kings threw feasts. Watched planets burn because rulers feared silence." She paused. "But I've never met a king willing to face his judgment." Zarkin's lips trembled. "So, this is it? You kill me?" Yelena stepped even closer, her voice now barely a whisper. "I don't kill kings," she said. "Kings fall by their own hands." She turned her back to him. Zarkin's eyes widened. "That's it? You're letting me live?" She didn't answer. She only said, "You'll die in one of two ways. Alone in fear, or remembered for choosing truth before the end." She started walking away. Kale followed, but Zarkin shouted after them, "What makes you think the galaxy will believe you?" Yelena stopped. Without turning, she said, "They already do. You made sure of that, the day you poisoned peace." Then she was gone. Hours later, a transmission went out from Val Therion. It was from Prince Kale. In it, he declared the end of Zarkin's rule. He presented the data drive, the proof of every crime, every lie, every betrayal. He promised peace, real peace with Earth and its allies. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He offered justice. And beside him, silent in the shadows of the screen, stood Yelena. The galaxy watched, listened. And for the first time in generations, they believed. Somewhere deep in the palace, Zarkin sat alone on his shattered throne. No soldiers. No sons. No power. He looked at the empty chamber and laughed softly. Not in joy, but in regret. The ghost hadn't killed him. She had done something worse. She had left him with the truth. And truth was heavier than death. The galaxy held its breath. For centuries, peace had been nothing more than a word, pretty on paper, empty in action. Treaties were lies, promises were weapons. But now, something had changed. On every screen across 13 star systems, the broadcast began. Prince Kale stood before the Galactic Council in a chamber that once echoed with false oaths. His voice was calm, clear. "I stand not as a prince," he said, "but as a witness to truth. The truth that our empire, my father's empire, tried to kill peace. And peace, dressed as a woman, fought back." Behind him, silent and still, stood Yelena. She wore no crown, no medal, no title, but her presence shook planets. Her shadow stretched longer than any empire. Inside the council hall, delegates from Earth, Cytheron, and over 40 allied worlds watched as Kale activated the data drive. It displayed secret plans, corrupted orders, betrayal after betrayal, all signed by Zarkin's hand. Murmurs turned to outrage. The room buzzed with shock. Then silence. Yelena stepped forward. One step. No speech. No greeting. Just a question. "Now that you've seen the truth," she said, voice steady, "what will you do with it?" The hall remained quiet until an elder from the Villari species, ancient and wise, stood up slowly. "We remember you," she said to Yelena. "Your name was once spoken in fear, but now," she lowered her head, "it will be remembered in honor." Others followed. One by one, species from across the galaxy bowed not to a queen, not to a soldier, but to a symbol. To Baba Yaga, the one who made peace walk again. On Valtherion, the old palace stood empty. Zarkin had vanished. No body, no trace. Some believed he fled to the dark rim of the galaxy, where broken kings hid from history. Others said he took his own life in shame. But many believed something else, that Yelena had left him alive, because she knew guilt would punish him better than death ever could. Whatever the truth, Zarkin was gone, and Kale ruled now not with power, but with purpose. He had signed the Unity Accords, the same peace treaty Earth once offered years ago. This time, it wasn't broken. This time, it was written in courage and fear. Weeks passed. The galaxy began to change. Weapons cooled. Trade opened. Borders softened. For the first time in decades, people from enemy worlds shared food, stories, and silence without fear. But there was always one question. Where was Yelena? She had vanished after the council meeting. No trace. No message. As if she had dissolved back into the shadows she came from. Some believed she returned to Earth. Others said she lived in orbit, watching silently from cloaked ships. And a few whispered she was no longer in one place, but in all places where peace was threatened. In a small moon village on the edge of the Cyrix belt, a child woke from a nightmare. She screamed, terrified, crying about war and fire. Her mother tried to calm her, but the fear wouldn't fade. Then, the girl looked at the window. And saw her, a tall figure in black, standing by the trees, still, calm, watching. The child blinked. The figure was gone, but by morning, the girl had stopped crying, because she whispered, "The lady in black told me it's okay," she said. "Peace is safe now." On a quiet night, Kale stood alone on the royal balcony. He looked at the stars and whispered her name. "Yelena, if you're still out there." A soft breeze passed by. And then, on the railing beside him, something fluttered down from the air, a black feather. He smiled. No words were needed. She had heard him. In the dark edges of space, beyond known maps, a hidden ship floated silently. Inside, Yelena stood before a glowing map of the galaxy. She marked a new star system in red. Whispers of corruption, secret weapons. Another rising tyrant. She picked up her coat, fastened the black cloak, and whispered to herself, "Peace isn't a gift. It's a fight." She stepped into the shadows again. Not a soldier, not a killer, but something else. Warning. A ghost with a mission. And as she disappeared into the black, one phrase echoed across space, soft, cold, and final. "Tell your kings, the Baba Yaga still walks."